Why does it seem like the WNBA can't catch a break when Caitlin Clark isn't on the court? Does one player truly hold that much power?
The reason why it really, really gets my blood boiling is because it's the exact same thing we see in every other sport.
Well, if you ask Sue Bird, the legendary face of the WNBA, she might tell you that's exactly the problem.
The games where she's not playing have lower viewership.
But what is Bird really upset about? Is it the tanking ticket prices and TV ratings after Clark's team was eliminated? Or is there something more going on here? Let's dig into this. Starting with why Sue Bird's recent comments have gotten so much attention.
Yet some people continue to flip that. Those people, I've seen Stephen A. Smith talk about it. I've seen Shannon Sharp talk about it. And that's what I just don't understand is they work for ESPN. So why are you hating on a product? It's a business you're in. It's not that they can't.
She's out here blaming Caitlin Clark for a dip in ticket sales and viewership, as if Clark's sudden disappearance from the playoffs is the sole reason the WNBA is struggling. Bird's remarks sound like she's putting the league's problems squarely on Clark's shoulders. But is that really fair?
And yet, we don't hear anyone on the Celtics and the Mavs. That is not how this works. It's because there's some players that are just so transcendent that the viewership's going to be insane no matter what.
Great.
And it has nothing to do with the other players, the other
It's the same narrative we see in every sport. When a superstar is out of the game, whether it's due to injury or elimination, viewership often dips. We've seen this across the board in men's sports too, but why does it hit differently in women's basketball?
And to imply that we should just ignore the impact that Caitlin Clark had and still continues to have on this team, this league, this sport. Nah, it doesn't work that way.
Maybe it's because the WNBA is still fighting for a larger audience, and when a figure like Clark is missing, that void feels like a black hole sucking away all the attention. Sue Bird, the legend, is pointing fingers, but is she aiming at the right target? Bird versus Clark. Is Sue Bird bitter? Now let's really get into it.
Do you think with Stephen A. and with Shannon, there's an aspect of them like defending their stances on her? Like, we were right about Caitlin and this is our defense. And I still think there's something twisted there because nobody ever said.
Sue Bird, an icon in the WNBA, took a hard stance, criticizing not just Clark, but also sports media giants like Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp for hating on the WNBA. But why is Bird so upset? Could it be that she's bitter about the meteoric rise of Caitlin Clark?
I don't know how you explain, like, honestly, look at the Golden State Valkyries. It's an expansion team. They've already sold out, I think it's 18,000 season tickets. Caitlin doesn't play there. And yet some people continue to flip that. Those people, I've seen Stephen A. Smith talk about it. I've seen Shannon Sharp talk about it. And that's what I just don't understand is they work for ESPN. So why are you hating on a product? It's a business you're in. It's not that they can't.
Clark has become the face of women's basketball in record time, pulling in viewership numbers that are unheard of in the WNBA. Bird's career is cemented in WNBA history, and there's no denying her influence. But Clark has ignited something fresh, pulling in not just basketball fans, but casual viewers who normally wouldn't tune into a WNBA game.
Sue Bird calls out ESPN hosts for, quote, hating on WNBA playoff ratings after Caitlin Clark's exit. You say, what? Why? Why, y'all? Really? This is where we have to go?
It's hard to ignore the reality that Clark's presence on the court translates to higher viewership, higher ticket sales, and more attention for the league. And when she's not playing, those numbers plummet.
Understand, in the world of crazy-ass liberal women, and that's what we got here. We got crazy-ass liberal women. If you disagree with them, if you make a statement that does not fall in line with who?
Let's look at the facts. After Clark's Indiana Fever was eliminated from the playoffs, ticket sales nosedived. The games that followed struggled to crack 1 million viewers. So yes, Sue, it seems like a lot of people are tuning in specifically to watch Caitlin Clark. But why is that so hard to accept?
Crazy-ass liberal lesbians of the WNBA. If you make any statement relative to the truth that goes against what they feel.
The Stephen A. Smith factor. Sue Bird didn't just stop at criticizing Clark's impact. She also took shots at Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp for calling out the WNBA's struggles.
Because remember, in the WNBA, it isn't reality, it's feelings. Feelings matter. That should be their slogan. WNBA, where feelings matter.
Apparently, telling the truth is offensive now, at least according to Bird. But here's the thing. Stephen A. Smith is paid to call it like he sees it, whether people like it or not. His job isn't to sugarcoat the facts just because it might hurt someone's feelings.
It doesn't compare to now. Is that what you're supposed to do? If the ratings dip a little bit here, don't talk about it, because in the 80s, hey, look how great we're doing. No, shut up.
When Bird accused Smith of hating on the WNBA, he didn't hold back. In classic Stephen A. style, he pointed to the cold, hard numbers. He reminded everyone that when Clark was playing, the Indiana Fever led the league in attendance, both at home and on the road. In fact, 4 different teams had to move their home games to larger arenas just to accommodate the extra fans coming to see Clark. The numbers don't lie, and Smith's job is to report those numbers, not shield the league from uncomfortable truths. But why is Bird so upset with Smith and Sharp? They're simply pointing out that without Clark, the WNBA's viewership took a significant hit. Bird's frustration seems misplaced. Shouldn't she be directing her energy toward figuring out why the league struggles without a star like Clark, instead of lashing out at those who are only stating the obvious? Is this really about Caitlin Clark? Here's the million-dollar question. Is Sue Bird really mad at Caitlin Clark, or is this about something bigger? Let's not forget, Bird is a walking WNBA history book, one of the greatest to ever play the game. But even she never had the kind of buzz that Clark is generating. It's gotta sting a bit, right? Seeing a rookie come in and become the face of the league practically overnight? Bird's comments come off as a mix of frustration and jealousy, which is understandable. After all, Clark's rise to superstardom has been nothing short of spectacular. But it also exposes a harsh reality for the WNBA. Its success is largely dependent on individual players like Clark. Without them, the league struggles to maintain its audience. This isn't about race or even about skill. It's about power. Caitlin Clark has shifted power dynamics of the WNBA, whether Bird likes it or not. She's the new face of the league, and that's got to be a tough pill to swallow for a legend like Bird. Why Clark's popularity is unmatched. Caitlin Clark is a phenomenon, plain and simple. Her games pull in massive crowds, both in person and on television. Her last playoff game brought in over 2.5 million viewers, which is unheard of in the WNBA. Compare that to the games that followed her team's elimination, which struggled to even crack 1 million. The difference is staggering, and it's a clear indication that Clark is the main draw for many fans. But what makes Clark so special? It's not just her skills on the court, though they're undeniably impressive. It's her personality, her swagger, and the way she carries herself. She's bringing a whole new level of excitement to the WNBA, something that even legends like Sue Bird couldn't quite achieve. That's not a knock on Bird. It's just a reality of how sports evolve. Every generation has its star, and right now, it's Caitlin Clark. Bird's legacy versus Clark's rise. Let's be real. Sue Bird's legacy in the WNBA is untouchable. She's one of the greatest to ever play the game, and her contributions to the league are immense. But Caitlin Clark is doing something different. She's pulling in a new generation of fans, people who might not have cared about the WNBA before, but are now tuning in because of her. This doesn't diminish Bird's legacy. It just highlights the changing landscape of the WNBA. Bird helped lay the foundation, but Clark is taking it to the next level. That's not something to be bitter about. That's something to celebrate. The fact that one player can have such a massive impact on the league's success is a testament to how far the WNBA has come, but it also shows how much further it has to go. The WNBA's struggle without Clark. The WNBA's dependence on Caitlin Clark is both a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, she's bringing in record numbers and drawing attention to the league like never before. On the other hand, when she's not playing, the league struggles to maintain that momentum. This isn't sustainable in the long run, and it's something the WNBA needs to address. But here's the thing. This isn't Clark's fault. She's doing her part by showing up and playing at an elite level. The problem lies with the WNBA's inability to market its other stars in the same way. Clark can't be the league's savior forever, and it's unfair to put that burden on her. The WNBA needs to find a way to keep fans engaged, even when Clark isn't on the court. Sue Bird's missed opportunity. Instead of criticizing Clark or the media for pointing out the league's struggles, Sue Bird could have used this moment as an opportunity to push for change. She could have called for better marketing of other WNBA stars, or advocated for new ways to keep fans engaged. But instead, she chose to lash out at Clark and anyone who dared to say the obvious. Bird's frustration is understandable, but it's misdirected. The real issue here isn't Clark's dominance. It's the WNBA's over-reliance on one player to carry the league. If the WNBA wants to continue growing, it needs to figure out how to sustain that growth even when its biggest star isn't playing. Conclusion, it's time for the WNBA to step up. Caitlin Clark is a generational talent, and her impact on the WNBA is undeniable. But the league's future can't rest on her shoulders alone. The WNBA needs to find a way to market its other stars and keep fans engaged, even when Clark isn't on the court. Sue Bird's frustration, while understandable, misses the mark. Instead of blaming Clark for the league's struggles, it's time to acknowledge the larger issues at play. If the WNBA can figure out how to capitalize on Clark's success while also building up its other players, the league will be in a much stronger position moving forward. Until then, the question remains, can the WNBA survive without Caitlin Clark at the center of it all? Only time will tell.